Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kapijana Vallabha Girivaradari Kapijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Ashtatar Shatashish Maharaj Vangai Sesi Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this morning we're reading from SrimadBhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 22. Prithu Maharaj meeting with the four Kumaras. We're on text 12. Swagatam Bodhvija Sheshta
Swagatam Bodhvija Shrishta.
Yadvratani Mumukshavaha
Yadvatani Mumukshavaha.
Charanti Shadayadira
Charanti Shadhayadira.
Bala Eva Brihanti Cha
Bala Eva Bhahanti Cha.
Swagatam Bodhvija Sheshta
Swagatam Bodhvija Shrishta.
Yadvatani Mumukshavaha
Yadvatani Mumukshavaha.
Charanti Shadayadira
Charanti Shadhayadira.
Bala Eva Brihanti Cha
Bala Eva Bhahanti Cha.
Swagatam Vodvija Sheshta
Swagatam Bodhvija Shrishta.
Yadvritani Mumukshavaha
Yadvatani Mumukshavaha.
Charanti Shadayadira
Shadhayadira.
Bala Eva Brihanti Cha
Bala Eva Bhahanti Cha. Swagatam Bodhvija Shrishta. Yadvatani Mumukshavaha. Charanti Shadhayadira. Bala Eva Bhahanti Cha. Yadvatani Mumukshavaha Chadanti Shadantaya Dira Bala Eva Bhavanticha Svagatam Bodhvijashveshta Yadvatani Mumukshavaha Chadanti Shadantaya Dira Bala eva bhavanticha Bhagatam Bodhvijashveshta Yadvatani Mumukshavaha Chadanti Shadantaya Dira Bala eva bhavanticha Bhagatam Bodhvijashveshta Yadvatani Mumukshavaha Bala eva bhavanticha Lord. Bhagatam Bodhvijashveshta Yadvatani Mumukshavaha Chadanti Shadantaya Dira Bala eva bhavanticha.
Okay, word by word. Su agatam,
Su agatam,
welcome.
welcome.
Vaha,
Vaha,
unto you.
unto you.
Dvijasheshtaha,
Vijashveshtaha,
the best of the Brahmins.
best of the Brahmins.
Yet
Yet
whose?
whose?
Vratani,
Ani,
vows.
vows.
Mumukshavaha,
Mumukshavaha,
of persons desiring liberation.
a person desiring liberation.
Chadanti,
Chadanti,
behave.
behave.
Shuddhaya,
Chandaya,
with great faith.
great faith.
Dhiraha,
Vira,
controlled.
control.
Balaha,
Bala,
boys.
boys.
Eva,
Eva,
like.
like.
Brihanti, observe. Cha, also.
Also.
Maharaj Prithu offered his welcome to the four Kumaras, addressing them as the best of the Brahmins. He welcomed them, saying, "From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observe the vows of celibacy, and although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourselves just like small children." Purport. The specific importance of the Kumaras is that they were brahmacharis, living the life of celibacy from birth. They kept themselves as small children about 4 or 5 years old, because by growing into youth, one's senses sometimes become disturbed, and celibacy becomes difficult. The Kumaras therefore purposefully remain children, because in a child's life, the senses are never disturbed by sex. This is the significance of the life of the Kumaras. And as such, Maharaj Prithu addressed them as the best of the Brahmins. Not only were the Kumaras born of the best Brahmin, Lord Brahma, but they are addressed herein as Dvijasheshtaha, the best of the Brahmins, on account of their being Vaishnavas also. As we have already explained, they have their sampradaya, disciplic succession, and even to date the sampradaya is being maintained and is known as the Nimbarka sampradaya. Out of the 4 sampradayas of the Vaishnavacharyas, the Nimbarka sampradaya is one. Maharaj Prithu specifically appreciated the position of the Kumaras because they maintained the brahmacharya vow from the very beginning of their birth. Maharaj Prithu, however, expressed his great appreciation of Vaishnavism by addressing the Kumaras as Vaishnava Shreshtaha. In other words, everyone should offer respect to a Vaishnava without considering his source of birth. Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. No one should consider a Vaishnava in terms of birth. The Vaishnava is always the best of the Brahmins, and as such one should offer all respects to a Vaishnava, not only as a Brahmin, but as the best of the Brahmins. Om Ganitavarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanvaditamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karajavachalam Pangamangaitegidem Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurunditananam Vancha Kapadruvishcha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So read the translation again. Maharaj Prithu offered his welcome to the four Kumaras, addressing them as the best of the Brahmins. He welcomed them, saying, From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observe the vows of celibacy. And although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you're keeping yourselves just like small children. So Maharaj Prithu is clearly here welcoming the four Kumaras. And describing some of their interesting characteristics, and one being is that they were very ancient personalities, but they're no older than, they don't look older than 4 or 5. So it's quite a interesting characteristic if someone was. There's no one around like that now. We can't really observe anybody. I mean, although Srila Prabhupada said that, which you've heard many times, but Srila Prabhupada said that there's these yogis who live up in the Himalayas, and they come down for the Kumbh Mela, which is every 12 years, I believe, in Allahabad, big festival there where everybody tries to take a dip in the holy river there, get liberation. So they come down, and when Srila Prabhupada was with his disciples one time, because Prabhupada went there to preach, with his devotees, disciples. So Prabhupada said, "Oh, you see this man?" He said something like some really high number. He said, "Oh, see this man? He's 300 years old," something like that. Something just out of ordinary. But they don't look like that. They look like they're 60 or 50 or whatever, very youthful. But in terms of someone keeping themselves looking 4 or 5, we don't see that. Right? Has anybody ever saw that? No. So this is what the Kumaras, they look like, the small children, although there were these ancient sages, great sages. And it said that they didn't want their body to mature into later ages because they wanted to be brahmacharis. And it's easier for, apparently, as Prabhupada's saying here, if the body's not mature of its children, then if there's a body of a child, there's no desires there, like sex desire there. And therefore they kept themselves at that age. It's an interesting point. And so this idea of brahmacharya, it's actually very important because brahmacharya, the actual word means to live on the spiritual platform. So actually all devotees are supposed to be brahmacharis. Now, of course, those in saffron cloth are generally, all the time they are defined as brahmacharis, but actually all devotees are meant to be brahmacharis. And Prabhupada would even say, he would call the grihastas grihasta brahmacharis. And the idea is that mundane attraction to this world will destroy spiritual knowledge, and as Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it destroys the urge for self-realization. That's the problem. So non-brahmacharya life means mundane, a life in which you could say the chief attraction being the sex attraction. It destroys the urge for self-realization. That's why you see when people are too lusty, when people are just too mundane and lusty, too attracted, sex attraction, they don't take interest in Krishna consciousness. They just can't. Why? Because their urge for self-realization has been destroyed by this attraction. So therefore brahmacharya. And brahmacharya means to control one's mind, to control one's senses, and to take one's mind away from the gutter of this material world. Just like even in mundane circles and mundane parlance, right? When you're growing up, sometimes children or teenagers, they'll say something, some type of remark, which is kind of, say, like a lewd remark or something like that, and then their parents or some older will say, "Hey, get your mind out of the gutter," right? Get your mind out of the gutter. So brahmacharya life means get your mind out of the gutter, means to elevate ourselves to the spiritual platform and to remain on that platform, in which we do not fall down onto the platform of too much absorption in bodily concept of life. And it's important that we learn how to do this. That was Srila Prabhupada's that was one of Srila Prabhupada's desires, is that, and that's one of the things Srila Prabhupada did, is he set up brahmacharya ashrams throughout the world to train. And specifically it says that they're supposed to be trained, young men are supposed to be trained at the early age, 5, right, in brahmacharya principles. So who has been trained in brahmacharya principles at the age of 5 here? Anybody raise your hand? Jamal? Dhamraj? No? Has anybody been trained in brahmacharya principles? No? Okay. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to lament and cry and, it's too late, right? Actually, most people nowadays, they're trained in the exact opposite of brahmacharya life. It's, something else, how they're trained. So, but we shouldn't become discouraged when that. It's like, okay, fine. What's done is done. And now it's whatever age we have come to Krishna consciousness, now it's time to be trained at this age, right? So in relation to maintaining brahmacharya, and specifically remaining on the spiritual platform, it's very important that we learn how to live in the mode of goodness, because the mode of goodness is something that facilitates this aspect of Krishna consciousness, brahmacharya, and that it enables us to remain on that platform. And part of the mode of goodness is learning how to, you could say, give people the proper respect, treat people properly. Now, there's a very interesting little story in relation to this in the Krishna book, and it has to do with Kaliya. How many hoods did Kaliya have? Does anyone remember?
How many what?
Hoods. 100? Oh, okay. 100.
Yeah, not 100.
100 hoods. 100-hooded snake. So Kaliya is, Krishna didn't kill him because his wives asked Krishna not to do that. So Krishna listened to them. But there's an interesting history with Kaliya and Garudha. And I'll just read a little bit of that right now. Okay. Shukadeva Goswami informed the king that the island known as Nagalaya was inhabited by serpents and that Kaliya was one of the chief serpents there. Being accustomed to eating snakes, Garuda used to come to this island and kill many serpents at will. Some of them he actually ate, but some were unnecessarily killed. The reptile society became so disturbed that their leader, Vasuki, appealed to Lord Brahma for protection. Lord Brahma made an arrangement which Garuda would not create a disturbance. On each half-moon day, the reptile community would offer a serpent to Garuda. So Garuda is a pure devotee. He's Lord Vishnu's carrier. But he's also not a vegetarian. He eats snakes. The serpent was to be kept underneath a tree as a sacrificial offering to Garuda. Garuda was satisfied with his offering, and therefore he did not disturb any other serpents. But gradually Kaliya took advantage of the situation. He was unnecessarily puffed up by the volume of his accumulated poison as well as by his material power, and he thought, why should Garuda be offered this sacrifice? He then ceased offering any sacrifice. Instead, he himself ate the offering intended for Garuda.
What chapter is that?
This is chapter 17. When Garuda, the great carrier of Vishnu, understood that Kaliya was eating the offered sacrifice, he became very angry and rushed to the island to kill the offensive serpent. Kaliya tried to fight Garuda and faced him with many hoods and poisonous sharp teeth. Kaliya attempted to bite him, and Garuda, the son of Tarksha, in great anger and with great force befitting the carrier of Lord Vishnu, struck the body of Kaliya with his effulgent golden wings. Kaliya, who was known as Kadrusuta, son of Kadru, immediately fled to the lake known as Kaliya Shraddha, which lay within the Yamuna river and which Garuda could not approach. Kaliya took shelter within the water of the Yamuna for the following reason. Just as Garuda went to the island of Kaliya Snake, he also used to go to the Yamuna to catch fish to eat. So Garuda would go to Yamuna catch fish to eat. There was, however, a great yogi known as Sabri Muni, who used to meditate within the water there and who was sympathetic with the fish. So he was meditating there, this great yogi, right, underwater, Sabri Muni, and he was sympathetic with the fish. Means Garuda would come, get the fish, eat the fish, and then Sabri Muni said, why is he doing this? He's trying to protect the fish. Okay. He asked Garuda not to come there and disturb the fish. Although Garuda was not under anyone's order, being the carrier of Lord Vishnu, he did not disobey the order of the great yogi. Instead of staying and eating many fish, he carried off one big fish, who was their leader. Sabri Muni was sorry that one of their leaders of the fish was taken away by Garuda, and thinking of their protection, he cursed Garuda with the following words. So Sabri Muni cursed Garuda for taking this big fish. Henceforward, from this day, if Garuda comes here to catch fish, then I say this with all my strength, he will be immediately killed. So Sabri Muni's cursing that he'd be killed. This curse was known only to Kaliya. Kaliya was therefore confident that Garuda would not be able to come there, and so he thought it wise to take shelter of the lake within the Yamuna. But Kaliya's taking shelter of Sabri Muni was not successful. He was driven away from the Yamuna by Krishna, the master of Garuda. It may be noted that Garuda is directly related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is so powerful that he is never subject to anyone's order or curse. Actually, the cursing of Garuda, who is stated in srimadbhagavatam to be of the stature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, was an offense on the part of Sabri Muni. Although Garuda did not try to retaliate, the Muni was not saved from his offensive act against a great Vaishnava personality. Due to his offense, Sabri Muni fell down from his yogic position and afterwards became a householder, a sense enjoyer in the material world. The fall down of Sabri Muni, who was supposed to be absorbed in spiritual bliss by meditation, is an instruction to the offender Vaishnavas. Yeah. So Sabri Muni was extremely powerful yogi, and as it's been stated here, he tried to curse Garuda that if you come back to this river, then and try to eat fish, then I'm going to curse you that you'll immediately die. So it's like a threat. I'll kill you if you come back. And because of that mentality, because of that mood Sabri Muni had towards Garuda, who's a great Vaishnav, Prabhupada said that, because of that he fell down from his meditation practice. Means he left his meditation practice and fell down into materialistic life. And it describes that when he was meditating under the water, after he tried to curse Garuda, he saw two fish copulating, and then his mind became disturbed, sexually disturbed. And then he, jumped out of the water, and he went to try to find, a woman. And when he went out, because he was under the water for so long, I don't know how long he was under the water. Does it say how long he was under the water? I don't know. Probably 1,000 years. Long time. So he was under the water, like his face and his whole body was just all wrinkled, like if you spend too much time in a swimming pool or something, you're kind of, at least your hands, So he was all wrinkled, and he got out, and then, the women, they saw him, and they're scared. Oh, I don't want anything to do with you. So by his mystic power, it said that he became young again, young looking. And then I think he married, this was quite a long time ago, and apparently people used to do this stuff, but I think he married like 100 women or something like that. He married like 100.
He came out, and the king had 100 daughters.
Yeah, 100 daughters. King had 100 daughters. You want to give him the mic?
He was all old and wrinkled. If you get in that stuff too long, So he had become wrinkled from staying in the water too long. More than just from old age. So none of the ladies wanted to marry him. So he, by his mystic power, he turned himself into a hunk, So then they all married him all, but then he got entangled. He had all these children and everything.
Yeah, so he gave up his meditation, he gave his spiritual process, and he got entangled with 100 women all at once. So yeah, this teaches us that we have to be careful, because we may be powerful in so many ways, or we may not be powerful in so many ways. Whatever the case is, if we are unnecessarily offensive with Vaishnavas, then it could cause some difficulties in our spiritual life. And generally, that is all due to not having enough, you could say not being situated enough in the mode of goodness, because mode of passion, mode of ignorance will create these types of offensive mentalities and feelings towards others. So therefore, this is part of living, maintaining, you could say, one's spiritual vows, is that one lives in the mode of goodness, so therefore that doesn't produce offensive mentality. And it's important that we try to live up to what we're supposed to be doing. Like brahmacharya, for example, those who are brahmacharis, in the ashram, there was one woman devotee, or someone told me there was a few women devotee, and they used to joke about certain brahmacharis. I guess that happens sometimes. And of course, anyways, probably vice versa. So many things go on, right? But these women used to joke about brahmacharis, and they would say, like, what do you call that? Yeah, it's the orange one. It's the orange ice cream with the white, what is that called? Huh? Orange? No, it's like orange. It has white cream. Creamsicle, yeah. Creamsicle. Sorry, I haven't had one of those for a while. Like 15 years or something, maybe more. So creamsicle. So they would the women would joke, "Oh, see this brahmachari? He's like a creamsicle, orange on the outside, white on the inside." Means the color is saffron, but inside the heart is white. It means whatever, married or something like. the guy should get married, or he want, or whatever. So now, whatever, some people, that was their joke towards this brahmachari, whatever, I mean, whatever that's supposed to mean. I guess sometimes women could tell, who's, but, whether someone gets married or doesn't get married, that's not really the point. But the point that I wanted to bring up about this was that for all devotees, brahmacharis in the ashram, everybody, it's like, okay, on the external, we are performing the activities of devotional service, right? We're dressing the deities, we're doing so many things, whatever, book distribution, this, that, so many devotional activities. We're chanting Hare Krishna, right? So we want to make sure that on the external we're doing these things, which is important, but also internally that's what's going on as well. It means Krishna consciousness is going on inside as well, not just outside. Because as it's said in the Premi Bhakti Chandrika by Narottam Das Thakur, a very wonderful book actually. Everybody should read that book. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually, he advised his disciples to read that book regularly. Premi Bhakti Chandrika, it's by Narottam Das Thakur, and Nectar of Instruction. Actually, in relation to this, sorry, just a little detour, but in relation to this, Gorkashore Das Babaji, they asked him, how do you develop love for Krishna? And he said, oh, it's very easy. He said, you just need 50 paisa or something like that, whatever, it's a very small amount of money. He said, you go down to the store, down to the market, and you buy 2 books. Premi Bhakti Chandrika, this book I'm talking about, and Prarthana from they're 2 books from Narottam Das Thakur. He said, you read these books and you'll develop love for Krishna. So in this book, he says, Narottam Das Thakur says that devotional service has to be performed not only with the body, but with the mind as well. So internally, we want to make sure, or we want to make sure we're not like a creamsicle, externally things are going on, but internally something else is going on. And of course, it's understood that externally, it's very easy, you could say in many ways, to change the activities of our external selves, or external bodies specifically. Activities. Like people join the ashram, right? You got a new bhakta joining the ashram. And, he shaves his head and gets a nice big shika, or small shika, or medium shika, whatever shika, right? And he puts on the saffron cloth and, puts on the tilak and he's chanting and everything. But you could say Dravida Prabhu or somebody else who's been, around a lot longer, they're also looking the same. But you could definitely sense that in many cases that the consciousness of that new person, or that, it's kind of funny, anyways, or that new person is that it's quite different for someone who's been around a lot longer. In other words, a person who's been around a lot longer is more mature, and Krishna consciousness is going on inside. There's a lot of development of Krishna consciousness, actually thinking of Krishna, love for Krishna. So that has to be there, that we have to, of course, change the activities of our external activities, but also internally we want to make sure that we're developing nicely in Krishna consciousness. It means to think of Krishna. Right. I was going to say that Damodar Kumar and myself, we got an email from a teacher from SDSU recently, and she wants us to come, or him to come, or me to come, or somebody to come and give a class to her students. And I thought it was pretty funny what she said at the end. She said, yeah, it's for beginners. These people are really new. They don't know anything about Hinduism. They don't know anything about Krishna consciousness. So they're really new. And she said, I understand that you know how to deal well with neophytes because you deal with the Krishna lounge all the time. I thought that's kind of interesting. The teacher, the professor said that. You know how to deal with neophytes because you deal with the lounge all the time. Neophytes, sometimes it's like a negative connotation. It means beginners, but so we want to make sure that both externally and internally we're developing Krishna consciousness. And lastly is that you see that within the lives of the great devotees, like the 4 Kumaras are being described here, They're the best of Brahmins, they're the best of Vaishnavas, they're the best of devotees, and they're completely on the transcendental platform. And that is due to them, you could say, always being busy in Krishna's business, right? Krishna has business. Just like everybody in this world, they have, certain type of mode of operation, modus operandi, right? What do you call it? Modus operandi. What is it? Huh? Modi operandi? I don't know, something like that. So they have a certain way, they're trying to achieve something. So Krishna is also trying to achieve something. And devotees are also trying to achieve something for Krishna and in line with Krishna's desires. So in other words, devotees are busy. Srila Prabhupada was very busy. His disciples are very busy. His grand disciples are very busy. We're all very busy. We should be busy in Krishna's business because that is what will keep us on the transcendental platform. And lastly is that there's a very wonderful verse coming up that describes Krishna and the devotees. If I could find it. Krishna and the devotees situation. Yeah, here we go. This is text 16. I'm not sure who's going to speak on this, but it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities. Therefore book distribution, right? Therefore preaching, therefore Harinam. Who are his parts and parcels, and for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. So pretty much the four Kumaras. So Krishna may not come personally, but he's sending his devotees out. So in that way, devotees could also be busy, working for Krishna. Okay, so does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah. So the question is, Gorkishore, does Babaji know how to read? Now, generally, the idea behind Gorkishore Babaji is that he wasn't literate, he didn't read or write. But according to Bhakti Vikas Swami in his book that he put out, Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhava, not Vibhava, Vaibhava, it says that Maharaj is saying that a lot of people in India back then actually were like that. They didn't know how to read or write somehow or other. But even though that was the case, Gorkishore Babaji, he would have many people coming to him, asking him questions about scripture and this and that. And you could say, okay, well, how did he understand all that? Well, first of all, he's coming from the spiritual world. He's the eternal associate of Krishna coming from the spiritual world. But yeah, Krishna is within the heart of everyone, and he gives knowledge and remembrance and forgetfulness, and he'll enlighten one with spiritual knowledge. So many great learned scholars would come to him. Because actually, for example, in the chanting of the holy name, everything's contained there. So if somebody is able to chant and hear, and really chant and hear purely, then actually everything's attained. Just like a short little, vignette, or I don't know if it's a vignette, but a short little instance was that, in relation to this, was back in maybe 20 years ago, there was a lot of friction caused by certain members of Narayan Maharaj's followers. Yeah. And there was a mood that, ISKCON is like, you guys are a bunch of, kind of neophytes, and Prabhupada really didn't give you everything you need to become fully advanced, fully Krishna conscious. So therefore, okay, fine, Prabhupada gave you something, but you really need to go to Narayan Maharaj to really get the full package of Krishna consciousness. So that was the mood. And but there was a lot of tension. They were really active and coming to the temples, and so they came to Los Angeles, some of them, And my spiritual master happened to be giving a talk, and some of them were there. And Chuta Karma Prabhu, he got really upset with them, and he like stormed out of the room, stormed out of the temple room, which wasn't a wrong thing. He was just, that was his way of displaying affection for Prabhupada. But my spiritual master was giving a talk, and then one of them raised their hands. One of these devotees, Narayan Maharaj devotees, they raised their hand, and they asked him a question. And they said, is it really true? Do you really think that, did Prabhupada really give you everything? I mean, it's kind of, you're asking right in the LA temple, but did Prabhupada really give you everything that you need to become fully Krishna conscious? And don't you need more, and this and that? And that was really offensive, actually. And then my spiritual master, very calmly, as usual, he thought for a few moments, and then he responded, and he said, well, even if Srila Prabhupada just came and he gave us the holy name alone, he said that is sufficient. Why? Because within Krishna's name, everything is contained. The whole spiritual world, spiritual identity, everything is contained. So yes, Srila Prabhupada, even if he just gave us the holy name, everything is contained. Which is true. It's a very good answer. Because, yeah, that's the case. Everything comes from the holy name. So yeah, anyways, that was a side point I thought was interesting. But Gorga showed us Babaji, yeah, because of his realization, he knew all these things. But in terms of him reading Bhakti Premi Bhakti Chandrika or Prarthana. But another thing is that these are actually songs. Like these Premi Bhakti Chandrika and Prarthana, they're all songs. Yeah. So it's not like, yeah. I mean, Bhagavad Gita is also a song, but Bhagavatam's also a song. We have so many songs. So, but Guru Puja, yeah, the Guru Puja song we sing every day to Srila Prabhupada, it's from, Narottam Das Thakur's work, which these two works he's referring to. So, he knew all the songs, apparently. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, does anybody have a last question?
There's an interesting book that was written by Dhanavir Goswami at least 20 years ago now.
Dhanavir Goswami wrote so many books.
This is called Brain Gain, because it's all about brahmacharya. And here's a little blurb on Amazon. Brain Gain certifies that celibacy and chastity are favorable for the brain and nervous system. An overwhelming body of documentation combined with facts from Vedic, Ayurvedic, and religious texts of major world traditions makes this perhaps the most authorized book on the subject. If you're interested, it's still available.
Nice.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.